My name's Yassa Khan, writer director of Pink and the up and coming Daffodil, actually. And I was fortunate to win an award at Brighton Rocks last year.
Our first one is, what is the biggest challenge you faced while making this film?
Pink, yeah, it was twofold really, because I think anyone that is sort of making an interpretation of true life
Yeah.
is one problem, but then the fact that it was my own life, as the director, it was let's just say it was both cathartic and emotionally draining, and I think it was good for me to see things from different, in particular my father's character, Hassan, and to see things from his point of view. It's got these two actors, one, Gordon Warneck, who I've watched in My Beautiful Laundrette years and years ago, is playing my dad. They're reenacting almost word for word what happened. It was like, could you get any more meta? It was like mind blowing a little bit. But it's been amazing. Yeah, it's been really amazing.
Yeah. When did you realize that you wanted to create short films?
Well, because I was a graphic designer for a very long time. So
Mm.
I studied in Sheffield back in 2000. So it was a long time ago, and I studied in Sheffield, I was always in the creative realm, and I sort of worked for fashion companies for a while, which was cool. And, you sort of absorb visual stuff, not just sort of static. And then when I made the leap to advertising, the image and video sort of coincide. So I got more and more into sort of appreciating the video side of it. And then the truth is, I've been thinking about making Pink and Daffodil, which is the feature version, for a very long time. And I think, you know, Quentin Tarantino said it, you don't have to go to film school. It's absorbing film, that's all you really need to do to be able to make one. So I think with all that sort of in mind, it was during lockdown and I was just like, I just was like, this advertising world can go away, please. And I sort of bought like a pin board for my house and went through all my notes, all my scrapbooks, and started sort of putting a detective sort of wall together full of stuff and notes
Yeah.
and photos, and it was amazing. And then during lockdown, I quit my job, and then yeah, I just went for it. So
So what kind of message do you hope like audiences take away from Pink?
what was really beautiful, and probably one of the things that you know inspired me the most from the Pink process. Like it won the LGBTQ award at Brighton Rocks. It was shared in Tasveer, which is a South Asian focused festival in Seattle, and then sort of really most important to me that it was played at the BFI Flair. In the big cinema, packed out. 400 people watching it, laughing at the bits that you're laughing at, gasp at the
Mm.
bits that you shouldn't. But then one of the most beautiful things was after the screening of that, I had a lot of young people coming up to me being like, this has been really great because I'm contemplating coming out to my parents and stuff, and it
Mhm.
seemed to be able to sort of ignite that kind of conversation with people that are like 30 years younger than me. So it was really cool. You know, whatever your parent child situation, you can take it by the reins and do what you feel is right. And then secondly, as a brown poor boy from Wales that's also gay, that you can take trauma and turn it into something beautiful. Just with a little bit of luck and a lot of tenacity, you can do it. And I think cinema is crying out for genuine um, stories and storytellers. And I think, we've got some great people like Shane Meadows and stuff that are really sort of championing all of that. Stephen Graham and everything that he's doing with Maker Up Productions, him and his wife. So, it's starting to roll, but Pink should be a testament to whatever if you've got a criminal father, you can still make a fucking movie.
What advice would you give to filmmakers that are submitting to film festivals for the first time?
You need thick skin, really. It was Pink was my first short, and I submitted it to a lot of festivals, and I guess I thought, this is such a cool story. I love the film. Like it's gonna, there were certain festivals that I thought it would do well in, and it didn't. And I think you have to be aware that programming is a thing, and it's not necessarily that they don't like your film, but it just doesn't really fit in the sort of what their ethos is or whatever. But I think the best thing to do is research. I think just being, whatever your budget is, just being really sort of pragmatic about it and careful about it. So you just got to be a bit smart and play the game and be out there and sort of do it, and promote yourself as much as you can on Instagram. It really does help to just sort of, to be proud of all of the laurels that you get and put it out there and respect for the festivals too, because it's magical when you're selected. It's a real, it's magical.
So what did winning at Brighton Film Festival mean to you personally and professionally?
It was great. It was one of the last, I've spent a lot of time in Brighton. I couldn't make, just because of some family stuff, I couldn't make the actual event, which I was really gutted about, but I'm going to submit something for next year or this year. And Brighton Rocks has a great reputation. And so to get this sort of get that final nod at that point was just a really nice way to end the festival run. And it was, it's gorgeous it's really good when it does like further afield, like in America or in Asia, whatever. It's a really good feeling. But when it's sort of appreciated at home as well, it's got extra sort of clout.
Lastly, would you like to tell us more about your upcoming film, Daffodil?
Please. So yeah, I came to India for some solace and to finish my submission to Cinema Cymru, which has funded the development of 6 Welsh language films. And Pink was originally a sort of a precursor to Daffodil and sort of a sort of proof of concept, so to speak. I pushed it further, obviously, but Daffodil is a behemoth. It kind of goes over four timelines, starting in 1985 all the way up to 1999, and it's sort of the backstory before Pink. Pink sort of happens 6 months after the end of Daffodil, so because it features my brothers and my grandma, and most importantly, my mum. And the trials and tribulations that we had to go through. That when you have a criminal sort of father, the films don't really, or like you don't really get to realize the sort of traumatic influence that has on the people left behind. One of a phrase to put it, I want to make the antithesis of a Guy Ritchie film. It doesn't dramatize what they do in any way, shape, or form. It just shows the carnage of what it creates back home. You get breaks from subtitles because you're able to just be immersed in this sort of gorgeousness of it. And it's set in North Wales predominantly, if not all actually. So it's got very gorgeous Welsh backdrops, whether it's my dad taking me picking magic mushrooms in the mountains of Snowdonia when I was like 8 years old. I'm from Carnarvon, which has got this gorgeous Roman castle, which is a sort of character in its own self because it's there as the sort of the protagonist grows, and got its own symbolism. So it's incredibly Welsh, but it's incredibly personal and it's incredibly poignant because it's not an easy watch, but it's like all of love, it's flanked by the opposite, which is usually pain. So yeah, that's it. And so I got down to the last 6 of however many projects. So I submitted last Tuesday. Um, so I'm both sad. I feel like I've given my child to like university or something. So, but it is good, and we're just a waiting game now to see if I get the funding to make it. So
Fingers crossed, yeah.
Yeah.
fingers crossed. Yeah, yeah. Fingers crossed. And yeah, thank you to Brighton Rocks and thank you to you two for interviewing me today.